The Doomed Lovers, a part of history with a hidden truth. From the true story of Julien and Marguerite de Ravalet de Tourlaville. Text: Krystin, Vesterälen. To listen to the story, go to the YouTube page. The Doomed Lovers, translated into English by Françoise Savereux. Freely inspired and narrated upon the true story of Julien and Marguerite de Ravalet de Tourlaville. We are in a space where time does not exist. Once existing, it will come from the infinity and will go to the infinity. We are in a space where there is no depth, no height, no width. We are in a space where there is no sound. Once existing, it will come from the infinity of the past and will go to the infinity of the future. We are in a space where death is life and where opposites mix. Let that space of infinity help me narrate that story of the past, lived by two young people. For this, I am asking you to turn several times the hourglass of time and open the door of the 16th century. This story happened 30 years after the horrible night of Saint Bartholomew, ordered by Catherine de Medicis, and where across the country Protestants were massacred. Henry IV, King of Navarre, is on the throne of France. From Protestant, he became a Catholic. 30 years later, tensions between Protestants and Catholics were as always felt. Brawls, denunciations. The first wife of Henry IV, Marguerite de Valois, daughter of Catherine de Medicis, had intimate relations with her brothers. It is in that tense context where revenge mingled in a voluptuous manner that two heads rolled on the ground of Paris, heads separated from their body by a sharp sword. It was on December the 2nd, 1603. First, it was a young lady of Normandy of age 17. Her name, Marguerite de Ravalet de Tourlaville, born in 1586. It was with courage, during the way by carriage from the chapel to the conciergerie, passing through the May Square, then the island of the Cité, the bridge of Notre Dame, to arrive finally to the Grève Square, that she claimed her innocence. In the same grave, her brother, Julien de Ravalet de Tourlaville, 20 years of age, was saying to himself, "My sister is an example of courage. She is so beautiful in her engagements. She has so suffered first from my absences and then from her pervert and brutal husband. Death will be a relief to her." Head resting on the block, hands attached in the back, Marguerite's looks showed her brother all the joy and happiness to find him again for eternity. Julien saw the shining blade fall on the neck of his sister. The beautiful head where the blonde hair was cut rolled on the scaffold before falling off to his feet. The look from where life had left kept a vivacity that brought the crowd of the people of Paris into respect. In the eyes of the beautiful Ravalet, as she was called in those days, people from Paris, men from court, could see in them all the contempt to leave this world. In those last moments, where it seems we see our whole life scroll, Marguerite retraced hers. She was born in a castle of great architectural elegance. It is said to be the most beautiful castle in the Cotentin. It was in the cold month of December 1586 that she was born, and everyone was in the admiration of her smile and beauty. Julien, who was then 4 years old, leaned over her cradle and had exclaimed, "How beautiful she is, my little sister." From this time on, he was constantly in the nanny's legs to be close to his sister. He was there when she was sick. He played with her. He even forgot he had other brothers and sisters. It was quite normal. After all, it was customary in those days. When she left the nursery, she shared the same room with all the Ravalet children. There were 3 beds, and in each bed slept 3 children. Indeed, the bed with curtains allowed Gabrielle, the last born, Julien, and Marguerite to protect themselves from the nocturnal cold and the fear of the dark. In the night, all heard the wolves run and howl in the park of the castle, as they even came in the path of the Chenet. During the day, the brother and the sister galloped at brisk pace in the countryside toward the forest of Brie, as in the Hague. Never a quarrel, always in a fusion of the spirit. They exchanged on poets in Greek or Latin, commented on history and on scientific and medical history, learned about geography, astronomy, mathematics, dance, and music. They sat beside each other during meals. When Marguerite was 8 years old, Julien, that was 12, left for Coutances to go and study to college. His uncle, who was the priest of the Abbey of Amby, had agreed with his father to predestinate him into priesthood. During those following 4 years, Marguerite had become introvert. A mask of boredom had fixed itself on her face. She complained she did not have interesting conversations anymore. It had been 4 years of sadness and monotony. At age 9, at her cousin's wedding, she met the one she was going to marry a few years later. Him, at 40 years of age, was looking at her with concupiscence, salivating at the thought of enjoying this innocent young body. The young girl was feeling awkward of the burning looks of desire the man had on her neck. Not only he was looking at her attentively, but also he was guessing her legs, her tummy, her breasts. He told himself, "She's quite proud, this young miss. She will regret looking down my face with arrogance if I do catch her." She was often writing notes to her brother about her boring life and asking him if he could come to Tourlaville during the vacation. Then she was waiting impatiently for his reply. Nevertheless, her parents, her brothers and her sisters, the servants and her chambermaid realized she was vanishing, but all hoped she was going to cheer up again. The fewest occasions Julien came to spend a few weeks of Tourlaville. Her heart was filled with joy at the thought of going riding in her brother's company and of the upcoming philosophical conversations. On the other hand, their promiscuity did not please their parents any longer. Some types of rumors ran in the corridors, came out of the house. Too beautiful, too young, too intelligent, too connected, too at hearts, too rich and powerful. It is never a good idea to attract envy and jealousy. We have to marry her rapidly to appease those gossips. Our family name cannot be sullied. So were the words of the father, Jean III, de Ravalet, de Tourlaville, his wife Madeleine born Hainaut, and the uncle, the priest of the Abbey of Amby, at the time when Marguerite was 12. It is in this manner that the parents presented to their daughter suitors of noble and wealthy families. They were all rejected by the young girl, who wanted to keep her independence. Exceeded by her refusal, they forced her to take as spouse Sir de Hopetois, as they met before at her cousin's wedding, as he was now age 45. He was the Lord of Montaigu, Colonel of Infantry, Lieutenant of the Marshals of France, commanding officer for the King at the Hague, and his wealth came from collecting the royal tax. Could you simply imagine that this girl of only 13, high rank in the social hierarchy, the daughter of a lord of great renown, beautiful as the star of the day, rising on the world, educated. She was called Ravalet the Beautiful at the king's court, marrying a definitely rich squire, but small-minded, vindictive, and low class. As soon as the wedding contract was signed, the union pronounced at the church and celebrated at the family castle of the Ravalet of Tourlaville, he showed to the young woman he was the master in everything and every thought. Facing Marguerite's independent character, he used the brute force of his arms and of his male sex. This jewel of beauty that was falling in his money bag was neither valued nor respected. He humiliated her as much in the bedroom than in front of everyone, at church or in the town of Valognes, where was his residence. This house, austere, cold and dark, resembled his owner at the contrary of her, as she was raised into clarity, light and gentleness. How many times hasn't she been brutalized, raped? An unthinkable number. Apart from Julien, that came to visit around Christmas 1600, no other family member worried about her state. "I cannot take this any longer," she said to her parents as she found refuge at their house. "I found the strength to flee away, but at what cost? I have to leave my daughter in Valognes." "Your husband has all the powers on you," answered her father. "Beating his wife is authorized by the Moors and the justice. If he killed you, and he has the financial means, he would not be pursued, for he would pay off a protector. A husband having mistresses is authorized by the Moors and the justice. If you are unfaithful, you will be brought to justice and be ostracized from society. You will be sent far away to a remote place or to a convent. Your husband will enjoy your dowry during all this time." "I want to go to a convent then," she exclaimed. "Let us wait before making a decision. I shall write to your husband if needed. After all, he pretends you were no longer a virgin when he took you on your wedding night. I have never had intimate relations other than with him. He insults me as much as he humiliates you, saying that. He hates us and he wants our ruin." The father waited a few weeks before sending a letter to his son-in-law. Also Julien, worried in knowing that his sister had fled her husband's residence and that she was in Tourlaville, came home and life followed its happy course. And he was right to worry, for his sister was on the obligation to go back and live with Mr. de Hopetois, her brutal and boor husband. And the course of life were bullying, insults, rapes and brutalities, humiliations, threats exercised by the husband punctuated the days. Marguerite asked her father and her mother for help. Her father, annoyed to receive a letter from his daughter, sent Madeleine, the youngest of the girls, to go and see Marguerite. whom at her return in Tourlaville described the awful life her sister was living, whom she appreciated much. That did not change anything. The Lord of Tourlaville preferred going hunting and enjoying good times with the maids and rowers from Cherbourg. Marguerite, exhausted, rendered to the edge of craziness, left the marital home for the second time. She fled far away, from Valognes, from that horrible husband, from that type of life where the husband, as hunter, wanted her as miserable. She found refuge in the town of Fougères with family ties. As Julien received a note, he went to meet her there. Sieur de Hopitois, angry about his wife fleeing and being protected by her brother, sent his valet after them to find them and to prevent him. In his dark will, he desired their death and put a price on their head. He filed a complaint with the Court of High Justice of Bricbec. It was him who registered the wedding contract and therefore the dowry. "Do not be afraid," he said to him. "If your wife is proved of adultery, you shall keep her dowry. And if she dies? If going through a court case? Yes. So I file a complaint against my wife and my brother-in-law for incest. It is a very serious charge. You need evidence and testimonials. I will get them, even if it means pain." When being the young man's turn, he walked with continence, hands tied in the back, head straight, and put it on the bloodied block, gazed into his sister's gaze and said, "We shall both be free. No one will judge us anymore. We are not ashamed. On the contrary, we are proud to be brothers and sisters." Suddenly, he saw himself in his childhood while playing with his sister. He took her every day with him to the study room. Only her had the ability to study and understand literature and sciences. Her other brothers only thought of playing hide and seek, to fight with a sword, and going hunting. Her sisters were only interested in tapestry and other feminine activities. When he left the family house to go and study for 4 years to college in Coutances, he had wondered how Marguerite's education would take place. He knew she was in good hands with the tutor Françoise Savereux. So then, erasing his worries, he enjoyed good times with his friends, also with women in Coutances, drinking interspersed with duels. His studies warranted him a good future into priesthood. Planning on staying free in life, he neglected them and just did the necessary. As he visited often the hussies, he forgot about Marguerite. When received a letter from his sister, he read it, but took a long time in replying. The day he learned about the marriage of his sister with Jean Lefebvre, Sieur de Hopitois, he immediately informed his parents that it was a misalliance, that it was best not to have this man in the family. Then he was not surprised to see Marguerite in December 1600, sad and not very talkative, and dressed like a bourgeois. Upon his arrival, she showed her happiness to see him again. When she fled, leaving her prematurely born daughter Louise, he gave her back her joy and her will to go forward in life. Then he had to leave for Paris to continue his priesthood studies. However, he worried again when Marguerite went back to the Valognes residence. Yet he liked much Paris, its streets, its inns, those loose women, always elegant, good-looking, a happy smile. He cared in choosing a woman, a bourgeoise or not, whom would pull him out of his anguish. Nevertheless, he never accepted to get married, even when a lady of good family carried his child. One day, he received a letter from his sister announcing him she left for Fougères. He immediately left the capital to go and meet her there. How happy they were to meet again. Himself so protecting and herself so vulnerable. When they were strolling in the streets of the town, they were so beautiful that everyone turned around to look at them. From the fusion of the mind to the fusion of the bodies, the path was crossed so naturally, like watching the sky announcing a thunderstorm. And of this improper love, life started to grow in the belly of Marguerite. Feeling they were followed by the husband's servants, whom had found them, they left town to go to Rugles, close to Évreux, where they were welcomed in a family manner. Nevertheless, this rest and joyful reunion with her brothers and sisters did not last very long. Indeed, the husband complaint ran all across France, and they could be denounced by anybody. It became the race of their life. Marguerite, being pregnant, had to get some rest, so they left for Paris to find refuge. The husband who was pursuing them learned by the family that his wife was pregnant, and from being furious he became enraged and dangerous. Paris, a town where the streets are clogged, cutthroat streets, smelly streets. At night it is best not to go out. There is no lighting, and no one knows who they might run into. Paris and its port on the Seine. Paris and its wooden bridges topped with shops. Paris with its renowned colleges. Paris and its vineyards. Paris and its student pleasures. Paris and its continual fights. Paris and its Tuileries Palace, the king's residence. It was in that city they found a shelter waiting to give birth, at the Hotel Saint-Leu, Saint-Gilles, church where Marguerite went every day to pray. But now Julien noticed a man following him, who detailed him and recognized him. It was Pierre du Brumont, footman of Jean Lefebvre. So he took a room at the Hotel du Petit Panier on Tirchap Street, in the neighborhood of the Saint-Honoré area. Jean Lefebvre continued his hunt. On September the 8th of 1603, around 10 o'clock, violent knocking on the door of Marguerite's bedroom brought her out of sleep. She was alone. Guillaume, her chambermaid, and the valet slept in a room at the level above. With the commissioner Chasbras, whom had received the complaint of Sieur de Haupetois, accompanied by a sergeant with 4 bowmen and a bailiff from the Prévôté de Paris, that the husband entered in the room where a fire in the chimney was extinguished slowly. He pulled the curtains and discovered Marguerite bedridden. Her round belly jostled a dress whereas the blows of the future newborn had strength. The husband was jubilant. "Look at this whore. She's pregnant and not from me. It has been a year since we shared my bed. I had told you I would lower your arrogance and that I would make you pay for it. Where is your brother? Isn't him your lover?" Without hesitation, these men took her to Grand Châtelet. The day after, Nicolas Roussel met in a street of Paris Jean Lefebvre, who was questioning people. He was looking for his brother-in-law. "Who is Nicolas Roussel?" "A valet who served Julien." Caught right into stealing money, Julien had told him off and dismissed him. That valet had only revenge on his mind. So when he met Jean Lefebvre, he gave him the address of the hostel where the young man was staying. Julien was also arrested and sent to Grand Châtelet. I shall pay you 5 louis d'or if you testify in my favor. On Saturday, the 15th of November 1603, started the judgment. There were 16 men dressed with purple robes arbored with ermine fur. Julien came into the chamber of the Tournelle, right into the court hall. They listened to the witnesses of Jean Lefebvre, who described the intimate relationship between the brother and sister. Finally, it was Nicolas Roussel's turn. So indeed, you did see them, together, naked, in a bed curling up. He was paid off 5 louis d'or by my brother-in-law, and this valet is a thief. Never mind, retorted the president of the court, Edouard Mollet. His testimony is considered valid. From whom is this child of your sister? I have no idea. I only learned about my sister's pregnancy in Paris. Is he yours? Never have I had this kind of relationship with my sister. When Julien left the tribunal, it was Marguerite's turn. My husband beat me. I gave birth to a premature girl due to the beating. Where are the servants of the households, the neighbors who witnessed the bad treatments? That has nothing to do with this affair. He welcomed whores in the house, as he locked me in a room with no light, nothing on the ground, with no bed. Your husband does what he pleases in his house. From his point of view, the conception of your daughter goes back to December 1600, time where your brother spent that month at your home. And who is the father of the child you're carrying? Your brother? Not at all. The father is the tailor who came at the castle to make our dresses. His name is Robert Agnès. Where did take place these intimate meetings? In your bedroom? Hidden away from your parents? In the forest of Brie, during the month of December. Was not a bit cold? How many times did you let yourself being caught? Indeed, several times. In this manner, in the woods, in the cold winter. So then the court ordered that this tailor come and testify. They looked for him, and then he was taken to Paris and thrown in a lugubrious dungeon. In front of the judges, has himself, while being shocked and sputtering, denied. It is obvious that the young lady de Hopetois, Marguerite herself, would not agree to fornicate with such a repulsive man. Set him free. In council, all the court members demanded the ordinary question. They must confess their crime, otherwise the complaint will be rejected and the husband will become guilty. No, no, shouted the husband. They must not be asked the question. They will never confess anything. They will be released and I shall lose the dowry. And what if my wife accuses? She will be the one to believe. Gentlemen judges, I tell you, not to sentence the brother and the sister. It is to authorize women to leave their husband. Examples should be made. So the question was left aside. During all this time, the father of the 2 children, Sir de Ravalet de Tourlaville, had arrived in Paris, knowing his children had been arrested. He did all he could to meet with friends in quest to obtain a meeting with the King Henry IV. As finally he was in front of him. Your Majesty, save my children. You do have the power, he asked with humility, down on his knee and the head bowed. Get up, I cannot. Only if your daughter had not been married, I would have pardoned her. But she is married and her husband has all the rights on her. Enough of those insane stories that the people of France live through, announced the Queen, Marie de Médicis. What I can obtain from the justice is that they both be beheaded by the sword instead of burned alive. They can then be buried in a sacred church ground, which is not authorized, for their ashes should be at the Maudit Cemetery of Montfaucon. So on December the 2nd of 1603, a week after the baby boy named Julien was born, the youngsters were executed. We are in a space where time does not exist. Once existing, it will come from the infinity and will go to infinity. We are in a space where there is no depth, no height, no width. We are in a space where there is no sound. Once existing, it will come from infinity of the past and will go to the infinity of the future. We are in a space where death is life and where opposites mix. I thank that space of infinity that helped me narrate that story of the past, lived by two young people. Now I am asking you to turn several times the hourglass of time and open the door of the 21st century.